Fuck me, Elvis lives.
But it was other invasions of space.
It's uncanny. Look at that. I thought you literally had your hand up Teresa's ass for a minute. I had to come and have a look.
Need that period of time, that stability, to be able to deal with the issues that the country is facing. I'm not going to be calling this an election.
She's a liar, liar. She's a liar, liar. Oh, you can't trust her. No, 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 no. She's a liar, liar. She's a liar, liar. Oh, you can't trust her. No, 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 no. I want to have a double left. Double left.
I like that. There's an armoured car right there expecting a riot, and you're selling
candles
of amazing aromas. It's nice soothing scents. Train station down there.
Yeah, he's going as well, but down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Turn right, left, and then when you get to the next junction, Dean's Gates on the left-hand side.
Excellent.
Side of the road.
Thank you. I'll just give him my loose change to the socialists.
Please put your money into the official collection bucket.
I've got a job.
If you're staying around Manchester to Wednesday, please collect your programme of what's based on it and where. We're sorry,
That's where the. Okay. Oh my God! Shit! Fucking hell! That's like your head was off nearly.
It was.
Jesus Christ! Spinal injury or?
Bob, remote control Bob.
Was it really? Qualify for your full pension still, shouldn't you?
Well, they said because in your contract, which they don't let you see, in little fine writing.
Oh, the one that you sign at 16, but actually it doesn't commence until you're 18. So you sign up for 3 years and actually end up having to do 5.
Well, I signed up for 22 years.
Fuck.
But the fine print in your contract.
Did you buy out of that?
Yeah. Well, the fine print in the contract says you're not entitled to an army pension until you've served 6 years with the colours. And they kicked me out after 3.5 years. I didn't get anything.
Really?
And it's only just recently I found out from a guy I was doing photo shoots with at Manchester Royal for the veterans that I'm entitled to a war pension because I was actually injured while on service, and it was because of my injuries that they discharged me. He said, although you can't get an army pension, he said you're entitled to a war pension because you received injuries while you were serving.
Yeah. Hi there. There's a G4S. Apparently, they've just been awarded arrest powers. This is our corporate private police service. Sponsored by Kit Kat. They were protecting, like stopping people going in there. So they're stopping them from moving.
I don't know. Possibly, I don't know.
All right, we're going to move on, I think now.
that beat back, not the Bobby. I don't know, you must be pretty pissed off that G4S have just got powers of arrest. Do you know, I was only joking at the SEI, the arms fair. I was joking to a guy there, and then 2 weeks later my prediction came true.
I'm an old cop, I believe we should be political, but on the way we always are political, aren't we? But
especially when you've just taken a massive pay cut.
Well, as the nurses have, as everyone has.
There's always money to kill people though, isn't there? There's always more money to kill people. Let's invade another country and commit some genocide. There's lots of money for that. You've got to see their point though. These guys ain't the criminals. They're playing loud music on the back of a van. Officers actually genuinely look as if they're having a really good time. This is the Tory party conference protest. I think for the fact that this sound system is making my eyes shake, they've decided to block it in and not let it continue any further. The numbers of police here is completely staggering. I had no idea there were still this many employed.
So I just ask someone what's going on.
I was going to get in the way. Get in the way.
We could join the march. Now there are grenades on that. I want to issue each person here with dispersal orders, keeping them from any protest activities in the city centre until midnight tonight.
No way!
You do not have to comply. You do not have to give your names. We are free men. You do not have to comply with the police. We are peaceful. We are doing nothing wrong. Stand your ground.
Anymore. You notice he has evidence gatherer on his back, just to remind his friends what their job is. Seems like a very democratic kind of agreement. You know, these guys are protesting and they're pushing the boundaries, they're pissing police off. They're not actually doing anything illegal, but they're close to the edge. And of course the police aren't going to just let people think they can do what they want and make them look stupid. So there's a definite compromise just been reached here. Better than that, there's some fucking awesome bass line.
No one said anything to me. Yeah. You
It just looked like it was a really amicable kind of compromise, you know, guys.
Yeah,
like...
no, I was when they had lines of him.
Yeah.
I was thinking we're gonna get arrested.
We're gonna get fucked.
Yeah. But you know, a few of them have been alright, you know. But
I've been watching them smiling. Some of them are dancing.
Yeah. The woman there was saying, "Oh, I've got glitter all over my shoes." I was like, "Well, embrace it, join us," you know.
And when I finish, it's gonna be a bloodbath. Oh, cops dying in LA. Yo, Trey, I got something to say. Yo, fuck the police. 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 It's the balance of the book. It's liberty or it's death. It's freedom for everybody or freedom for nobody. You probably said it's like death, the World Bank and IMF visit. The kleptocracy orchestrated, subjugated corporate state that isn't.
Where have all our freedoms gone? What happened to our liberties? What happened to our right to protest?
Pontificate, philosophize, cross the T's, dot the I's. I heard him say the revolution won't be monetized, but it could be wrapped up.
Each and every one of you here, you're being fucked over as well.
History favors the trailblazers, the taste for change is contagious. Since no strangers face the takers are afraid of raising wages when the same mangy clinkers say that we should hate our neighbors. And when the rage cascades, these say this claim that their being is what's clear. Some don't even pay taxes on the profits here. Vote against the interest of murder from government, not conspiracy theory, conspiracy actuality. Until now, politics.
We live?
History favors the trailblazers.
Shame on you! 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 Is this why you're coughing? Is this why you're coughing? No justice! No peace! Is this what you signed up for? I don't think it is. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Jelly and ice cream when trees are made as. Jelly and ice cream.
Bloody hot.
Shame on you! 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 No!
This is as much about your liberties and your freedoms as anything else. They're all disappearing, it's all getting eroded. You'll wake up one day, you'll be regretting this. Like, fuck, look at me now, look where I am. No future, no pension, no health service. I hope you haven't got any kids, because they're fucked. They're really fucked. We're fucked, but they're properly fucked. Working hard, doing all those hours, putting yourselves in danger, putting yourselves at risk, for what? We're all fucked. Unless we stand up and do something. Yeah, what were you doing, Dad, when the country was being dismantled and everything was getting fucked up? And our government was committing genocide everywhere. What were you doing, Dad? Oh, yeah, I was helping, son. I was helping. I thought it was better for me to just earn, you know, a tiny crust, just enough to feed you all on, and hopefully keep hold of the house while I help the government dismantle everything.
As Home Secretary, accusing police officers and the Police Federation of scaremongering, and listen,
in Britain. Today you said that neighbourhood police officers are an endangered species. I have to tell you that this kind of scaremongering does nobody any good. It doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve the officers you represent, and it doesn't serve the public.
It's almost unbelievable when you look at the numbers, because 984 soldiers have been deployed on the streets of Britain, or were deployed on the streets of Britain yesterday to help free up armed officers. So maybe she meant something different when she accused the Police Federation of scaremongering, when they said that we'd be forced to adopt a paramilitary style of policing. But within 2 years of levelling that accusation at, and I know the police aren't perfect, but as with the armed forces, I lean towards a degree of sentimentality when I'm discussing people who risk their lives to look after me and my family. It's almost a straight swap. 984 soldiers deployed on the streets of Britain, 1,337 trained firearms officers axed since she became Home Secretary. And then we'll go back to Damien O'Reilly.
You'll remember in November 2010, you presented me with Community Police Officer of the Year Award. I say that conference, forgive me, just to show that I do know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, I'd worked in inner city Manchester for 15 years. I felt passionate about what I was doing. In 2012, I had to leave, couldn't take it anymore, because the changes that have been imposed have caused community policing to collapse. That's the reality, man. Intelligence has dried up. There aren't local officers. They don't know what's happening. They're all reactive. There's no proactive policing locally. That is the reality, man. And Mark Rowley just mentioned neighbourhood policing was critical to dealing with terrorism. We run the risk here of letting communities down, putting officers at risk, and ultimately risking national security. I'd ask you to seriously reconsider the budget and the level of cuts over the next 5 years.
It's almost scary in its prescience, isn't it? We run the risk here of letting communities down, putting officers at risk, and ultimately risking national security. And then I refer you to the fact that 1,337 armed police roles have been axed since 2010, and just shy of that number of soldiers have been put on the streets to effectively do the job that they would have been doing if their jobs hadn't been axed as a result of government cuts that we hardly ever read about, because it doesn't fit in with the agenda of the media, most of the media's establishment, if you will. We're supposed to be reading about how, they're always swinging the lead, these public servants. Look at these police officers, they think they are. 4 fire engines turned up to get a cat out of a tree. It's almost as if they're working together to just slowly chip away at anything that could be loosely described as public expenditure. Police officer gets murdered in the line of duty. We all pause and pass around the collection plate. but people don't change their politics and suddenly start calling for the pay freeze to be lifted or the cuts to be stopped. That man stood up in front of the Home Secretary and seems to me to have come pretty close to describing what happened in Manchester on Monday night. An epic failure of intelligence and a threat to national security.
Because we have no civil liberties anymore, we have no freedoms, our rights are eroded.
Currently,
they're protesting in a peaceful manner. And the police got forceful.
Opinion polls show consistently that about 2/3 of the public trust the police to tell the truth.
Not
but
anymore.
that is no reason to rest on our laurels, because we should never accept a situation in which 1/3 of the public do not trust police officers to tell the truth. And for different communities, the numbers can get very worrying indeed. According to one survey carried out recently, only 42% of black people from a Caribbean background trust the police. That is simply not sustainable. Change is therefore required. Now, many of the government's broader police reforms will help. The College of Policing will improve the quality of leadership and drive up standards. Police and crime commissioners are making the police more accountable to their communities. Direct entry into the senior ranks will open up the police to talented outsiders. HMIC is more independent of the police and of government and has greater credibility, therefore, in reporting on police standards and performance. But while these reforms are important, they are not on their own enough to root out corruption and ensure standards are as high as they can be. That is why the College of Policing is establishing a code of ethics. It's why the college is creating a national register of officers struck off from the force. We're making sure officers can't escape scrutiny or censure by resigning or retiring early. We've increased the powers and resources of the Independent Police Complaints Commission. I've asked HMIC to look at the anti-corruption capability of all forces. We've tightened the rules around the deployment of undercover officers, and I will soon publish proposals to strengthen the protections available to whistleblowers in the police. I'm creating a new criminal offence of police corruption, and I'm determined that the use of stop and search must come down, become more targeted, and lead to more arrests. But there is still more work to be done. We need to go further and faster in opening up the police to outside talent and to people who might not ordinarily consider policing a career. We need to look much more closely at standards of training and leadership. We need to do whatever we can to make sure police officers are representative of the communities they serve. And as I've said before, I am willing to grant the IPCC more powers and reform the organisation further if that is what is needed. Because it cannot be right that when officers under investigation by the IPCC comply with the rules by turning up for interview but then refuse to cooperate and decline to answer questions. Such behaviour, which I'm told is often encouraged by the Federation, reveals an attitude that is far removed from the principles of public service felt by the majority of police officers. It is the same attitude exposed by HMIC when officers called to help a woman who had suffered domestic violence accidentally recorded themselves calling the victim a slag and a bitch.
Oh.
It is the same attitude expressed when young black men ask the police why they are being stopped and searched and are told it is just routine, even though, according to the law, officers need reasonable grounds for suspicion. It is an attitude that betrays contempt for the public these officers are supposed to serve. And every police officer in the land, every single police leader, and everybody in the Police Federation should confront it and expunge it from the ranks.
And as always in these attacks, my sympathies and my thoughts, my heart goes out to the victims and their families. the news coming out of these places is of obviously unspeakable horror, and it beggars belief that anyone could support these kind of attacks. And yet our government, the British government, does support these kind of attacks and has done systematically as a tool of its foreign policy. Responsible for this policy of lifting these orders so that these known Al-Qaeda members could go and fight and train in Libya. Well, control orders come under the remit of the Home Office, the responsibility of the Home Office, and who was the Home Secretary in 2011? Theresa May. So Theresa May personally was responsible for changing the status of known Al-Qaeda members, including the Manchester bomber's father, to ensure that he could travel unimpeded, and they could travel unimpeded to train and fight in an Al-Qaeda-led insurgency in Libya. And the same policy applied to Syria as well. But that's not all. Anytime someone on the terror watch list tries to leave or enter the country, automatically a warning is flagged up to alert the border control officials, who can in turn alert the counter-terrorism police. So some of these fighters were actually stopped and questioned by counter-terror police. But MI5 overruled them to ensure that they could travel freely to and from these training camps and so on in Libya and Syria. And literally you can read about this. There's a well documented, there's an article on Middle East Eye recently called Sorted by MI5. Literally people would be stopped, these fighters would be stopped by counter-terror police because their names had triggered a warning, and they would literally get on the phone to their friends in MI5, and MI5 would overrule the police to allow them to travel back and forth freely. And again, who is responsible for MI5? MI5 comes under the responsibility of the Home Office. So again, the Home Secretary, Theresa May, personally implemented a policy that allowed counter-terror police to be overruled, to allow fighters, known fighters, often known members of Al-Qaeda, to travel freely between Britain and training camps in Libya and Syria to go and fight and train with Al-Qaeda and latterly ISIS and so on. So let's just recap here. We know that not only did Britain turn peaceful and stable states like Iraq and Libya into failed states that have become effectively safe havens for terrorist groups, not only is Britain maintaining an alliance and is actually the biggest weapons dealer to Saudi Arabia, which is in turn one of the biggest state sponsors of terrorism. It was legal for the first 2 years of ISIS's existence in Saudi Arabia, for example, to actually openly fund ISIS. Not only did the British government openly fund, equip and train fighters in these insurgencies in Libya and Syria, insurgencies which it knew itself to be led by Al-Qaeda and associated groups.
They were coming in the back way.
But we now know also that Theresa May herself actually had a policy to ensure that counter-terror police could be overruled to allow the unimpeded travel back and forth between Britain and terror training camps of fighters in Libya and Syria. And this included Salman Abedi. Salman Abedi returned from his final trip to Libya, presumably his final training session with ISIS just a few days before the Manchester attack. Now we know he was on a terrorist watch list, so this would have triggered a warning. But thanks to Theresa May's policy, this warning was overridden. So that's the state that we're in right now. And the British government has blood on its hands without a shadow of doubt.
They're in trouble.
It has already the blood of millions of Iraqis, Syrians, Libyans, Afghans, Nigerians, Algerians, Tunisians, Pakistanis, and others who have suffered from attacks by these groups. But now to that can be added that the British government has the blood of 22 Mancunians and 7 more Londoners. The British government, the cabinet, Theresa May and her cabinet, these people are complicit in murder. They're war criminals, and if the Nuremberg principles, the principles established by the Nuremberg Tribunal, established after World War II, were applied, then they would be hung.
They'd be hung. The fuckers would be hung.
They would be hung.
They're coming out now.
That's why the police all got over there. I knew they were.
I don't understand being a police officer. I don't understand what the appeal is.
Well, it used to be secure. You used to get paid a good wage. You'd have good benefits, good health care.
No union. You lose any individuality, and then you fuck everyone that you fuck your neighbours over, basically, by protecting the people that are fucking you over because you don't have a union. It doesn't make sense. You're protecting the people that are fucking you up.
Yeah, but that's what I said to him. Like, we're fighting for your fucking rights as much as anyone else is here. Do well to express a bit of compassion.
You'd want to quit, wouldn't you? Maybe I don't know, it's all a bit fucked up.
I know you're gonna dig this.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yo. Okay, yo. I like you. You're like a tiger.
Yes, I grew up on a dole in a single parent family. Been through a little bit of tragedy. Yes, I was around drugs and violence before the day that I started secondary. That's part of it, not half of it. Get the picture, the rest ain't necessary. Growing up, got a little caught up. That ain't even half of my life. Also given the knowledge of self, that is all we actually need to survive. If you saw me, age 9, reading Malcolm, just fine. Teachers still treated me stupid. Students that couldn't speak English, they put me in groups with. The irony is, some of the first man to give me schooling, you were called youngsters. I already explained that we know what the truth is. They used to say don't be like me. Yeah, I got a name and don't on the street. Nighttime comes, I can't sleep.
No fucking here, no fucking anywhere. No Tory.
Destroying the climate. Destroying the world. Holocaust. Bangladesh is flooded. Stop fracking.
Who's shouting that, Bob?
Don't know.
Where are we shouting?
Prosperous
Got some
people.
help?
Prosperous people. Prosperous. Come and promote.